Welcome to this free training. My name's Jackie Malpass, and this is how to write a non-fiction book in 30 simple steps. So this is me, and I really hope that you will come and find me somewhere across the social media planet and connect with me. It would be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to hear about all of your books and all of the things that you are creating to get your message out into the world. My first big tip, and this is probably the number one reason that most people fail, is they don't put a book plan together. Now, the great thing about having a plan is when you break it down into little baby chunks, it makes everything so easy. Why wouldn't you want to make things easy? Now, the thing is, of course, is a lot of people don't like to plan, and I get that. But you know what? Even if you create a plan, you still can go off-piste and do some other things. The plan is just a starting point. And then as things evolve, you can come back and change the plan to suit. But always, always start with a plan. And this plan here, if you want to get this for free, then I would ask you to sign up, and there will be a sign up link. If you don't want the plan and you don't want to sign up, that's absolutely fine. This is completely free training, no strings attached. You don't have to do anything you don't want. But if you want a copy of this in Excel, then I would ask you to sign up. And this is an end-to-end plan that you can use as the starting point for your book. It is the plan that I use with my book, with my books, with my courses, and with my clients, and it never fails to keep people on track. So the first couple of things you need to do is you need to go and get some things. I am a lover of brown paper. So you need stationery, you need brown paper, things to put the brown paper up on the wall, index cards, A4 paper, post-it notes, coloured pens, journal, a pen, a notebook to keep in your bag or on your person, folder, Polly Pockets, you know, those plastic things you put stuff in, dividers. And I also like an A3 artist pad. And you might be thinking, my goodness me, I want to write a book. Surely all I need is a computer and a word processor. This is part of the planning. So when you plan an outline, I always use a roll of brown paper, and I do lots and lots of mind mapping with it. And through all of the stages that I go through with my book, this roll of brown paper just becomes my best friend. Now, the other thing that becomes a best friend is a journal and pen, and I keep them by the side of my bed. I journal anyway, but when I'm in the middle of writing a book, I get all kinds of downloads before I go to sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, I journal them, and I journal certainly after I've been for a walk. So just go and get yourself a load of, I'm going to call this stuff. Go and get this stuff, because this is going to help you creating your book outline, your book plan. And the reason we have a folder and the Polly Pockets and dividers is you create what I call a book Bible. So you basically just keep everything in one neat place, unless you just want to leave it all over the shop, in which case be my guest. But I'm a little bit of a, I like everything to be a bit organized, so I want everything in its kind of right place, and then I know where to find things. Now, the other thing that is absolutely vital is software. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Scrivener. When I say that, I'm a fan of it because it has an amazing corkboard, and you can use it for outlining, getting your first ideas down. But then I need to put it all into Microsoft Word, because when I'm writing, I like to have all my style sheets in place, and I like to see a structure. I always turn my navigation pane on so I can see where I am. So Word really is my best friend. I love products like iMindMap on Windows 10 and iThoughts on the Mac. So they're mind mapping pieces of software. And when I see what I do is, when I've mind mapped things on my sheet of my roll of brown paper, I then mind map them on the computer, because then I get a sense of, how I can move things around a little bit better. Dragon Naturally Speaking, if you choose that you don't actually want to write your book, or you want to write your book quickly, you can talk it, and you can use something called Dragon Naturally Speaking. And the other piece of software that I think is incredible, and I use it a lot for research, is Evernote. And I use that like a finding system. So when I find something, I save it to Evernote, and then I've just got all of my stuff in one place. See, I told you I'm a little bit on the organised side. Find the right space to write. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've spoken to clients and they've said, I just can't write. And I've asked them to describe, well, where are you writing? And it's usually that they're writing in a place that doesn't have the right feeling. So let me tell you about some of the places I like to write. And I write depending on my mood. It's a little bit how I choose a bottle of wine, or, if I want to drink something, I drink something based on my mood, whether that's a cup of white tea, a glass of water, might be some nut milk, or like I say, or like a glass of wine, and I choose something based on my mood. And I do the same thing when I write. Now, in I'm going to call it my cwtchi room. So cwtch in Welsh is a cuddle. And this room cuddles me, it cwtches me. But I've got 2 sofas in there, but only one of them is a writing sofa. And I stick my legs up. I normally have one of my dogs by my side, and I just write. Other places I like to write are in bed, and I have a day bed that looks out onto my terrace and onto the hills. But also sometimes I like to sit and write in my office. It really depends what I'm doing and my mood. I like to have light. I like to have a cool place to be. I like to light smelly candles. There's or incense. There's something about the mood of a room that takes me depending on what I need to write. And I'm just going to suggest that you go and find different ways to write. Now, the other thing I do that is really key to writing is I either write with no sound whatsoever, there's nothing going on, or I put something called focus at will on. And I just stick my headphones on, stick focus at will on, and I might put a timed program on, so I know I'm going to write for 60 minutes. And that keeps me really, really motivated. Just have a look at it. But the right space, really important. This is also one of the major reasons that people end up not writing a book, is that they're not really connected to their why. And I think books have the power to change our lives. And they'll change other people's lives. As we write, we change. We grow, we expand, we transform, and that's what your writing will do for somebody else. So why are you writing your book? Is it because it's cathartic? Is it because you want to get clarity of purpose and process? Is it about being seen as an expert? You want to make money, you want to turn it into other things? You really, really need to get deeply and utterly connected to why you are writing this book. So when you know what this book is, have a think about, well, how do we know? How do we drill right down and to know what our big idea is? So the big idea is what I call the heart spot. And this is where your vision for you, your life and your business, your strategy for this book and your business, your ideal reader, because you're only ever writing for one person, and the content that you want to share for that ideal reader that fits with this strategy and fits with your vision. Where those 4 things intersect at what I call the heart spot, that is your big idea. And that needs a little bit of thinking about. One of the problems we have as subject matter experts is we know too much. What you'll find is if you distill your stuff, I love the word stuff, your stuff into bite-sized pieces for your reader, you could end up with several books in a series. You don't have to put all of your content into one book. So it's just, what is the heart spot for this book? I'm sure you've heard people say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And in my book and on my courses, I have a little questionnaire, and I get people to really think about how they do stuff again, how they do things. I also, when I'm working with my clients, I work this out intuitively. I get a sense of what we need to do in the moment to keep that motivation and inspiration up, because believe you me, everybody is different. You know, I have a process for outlining that works really well for me and for a lot of other people, but for some people it doesn't. They only want to do little bits of it. Some people don't even want to outline at all. They just want to pants the whole thing. And there's another reason why books often fail. Anyway, so how you do anything is how you do everything. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So I'm a big ideas person. I see things and I get excited. So I like fresh, new and exciting. I love to start, and I find finishing so hard. When I'm in a team, I'm the person that has loads and loads of great ideas, keep people motivated and inspired and moving. And I'm the person that can see holes in things, but I certainly don't want to be finishing the plan. So I always need a really good finisher if it's a team project. But what it means is, because I understand how I do things, I know that I have to do things in chunks, and I have to do a certain amount of things, and then when I get bored I have to stop that and I have to go and reflect and do something else. So my something else is my fresh, new and exciting, and then I can come back to what I was doing before. And by doing this, I keep my projects alive. Now, I do make myself finish my books. Now, the other thing I do is when I get to a particular point, nothing stands in my way. I just sit and do what are the boring things? You know, I go and do my grammar and my spell checking. I make sure all my stories are started and finished. I make sure that everything's formatted perfectly. I am completely and utterly anal, and there is nothing that will take me off that project. I just have to do it because there is an end in sight. So learn about yourself, because if you know how you like to do things, you will get this book done. You really will make it easy for yourself. You know, we've always got excuses. Excuses. I do. I have excuses. I'm always going, well, I can't do that because, and then it's like, I slap myself around the face. Not very hard, obviously. And I say, let's turn that can't into a can. And I have to think about, you know, what is it? What are the excuses I'm making? Like, what stands in your way? Is it time? Is it money, motivation, inspiration? You've got a mad monkey mind? You know, what is it that is standing in your way? Write all those things up and then write how you're going to change that. I often take myself off social media, have a little digital detox, because when you say you have no time, it's because you're faffing around doing something else. You're watching crap TV and you're just basically making up excuses. And the thing is, stop making the excuses and just get on with it. Now, if you have got a load of things on your plate, work out what they are, work out what's important, put things in a priority order, and then get on with it. You know, if you have a burning desire to write a book and get it out there, then none of this stuff need get in your way. Seriously. And the other thing is, you know, I'm very lucky. I live by myself. However, I live with 3 dogs, and trying to negotiate with them as a distraction is quite hilarious. I bribe them with biscuits and walks, but believe you me, when my youngest dog, Angel, has decided that enough is enough and she wants something, she will put her paws all over my keyboard. I mean, luckily she can't climb on my desk and sit on it like a cat might, but you know. Now they're dogs, but we might have human distractions. We have people who aren't supporting us for the want of a word. They're not being our champions. And you know, sometimes our closest people don't really understand our burning desire. Well, we need to negotiate with them so that they get lost and leave us alone, basically. Now, when I was married, My ex-husband was an absolute nuisance. And I had, which is obviously why he's an ex-husband, I put some signs up. One of which says, "You may come in," which means you can interrupt me when I'm working. And another one that says, I won't tell you exactly what it said, but it basically says, "You cannot come into this room." And I would take my notice down to him and put it in his face and say, "I'm about to do something and I need an hour's peace. I would really appreciate it if you didn't disturb me." Yes, guess who used to disturb me? Anyway, apart from being able to put a lock on the door and put a chair under the handle, it was something that drove me insane. My advice is you try your best. Now, other distractions are that monkey mind that I talked about. What or who is standing in the way of writing your book? And the other thing is you just have to diarise the time. I always get up a little bit earlier, stick my headphones on, focus at well, 60 minutes, write, take the dogs out for a walk, and it works for me. You have to put that time in your diary, and I find that by doing it first thing in the morning before I have to do anything, it means it's done, and then I've got the rest of the day to do whatever I like, within reason. Start to call yourself a writer and an author. Now, a writer is somebody who is writing, and an author is someone who has published. Now, if you've published a blog, that still makes you an author. Don't let anybody say that you are not a writer, because when you have written your book and you have published it, not only are you a writer, but you are an author. And this is all about mindset. This is seeing yourself as that person who writes and has the capacity to change the world with their words. Now, this bit is sometimes tricky. Who is your ideal reader? How do you know who they are? One of the things you can do is you can start asking yourself, what questions do you get asked? And when you think about the questions that your ideal reader is asking, these actually can become chapter titles. But what is going on in your reader's head? Now, if you were writing a book, and I'm going to choose weight loss and eating healthily or clean eating simply because the woman is just about to chomp into this chocolate thing, what kind of things might be going on in your reader's mind? They might have no willpower. They might find that they're addicted to sugar, and they might be asking, how do I break this sugar addiction? They might be asking for recipes on how they could make a beautiful cake like that is completely and utterly processed sugar-free. Just because that looks like it's an unhealthy cake, it actually might not be. I am gluten-free, vegetarian, sugar-free, dairy-free. I do eat a very good diet, I hasten to add. But if I were writing a book about that kind of thing, and that were my niche in the market, I would be looking at what kind of questions are people asking me. They'd be saying, well, maybe what flours can you use to create a gluten-free recipe? How can I make gluten-free pastry out of something like lentils? People ask the strangest things. But remember, you were writing this book for only one person, and it's your ideal reader. You can do all the demographic stuff. You can do, their age range. You can do it they're female or male, or it's a mixed gender, or they might be in a particular culture. You might be writing for a Christian audience. But at the end of the day, whoever they are, they're asking questions, and you need to know what they are. So what is your reader going to get as a result of reading your book? What is the outcome, the result? Every book takes your reader on a journey. So what you have is you have a core message. And when you're outlining your chapters, and certainly when you're writing, you're always coming back to your core message. And within each of your chapters, you will have a message. It's part of the journey, and it links to the core message, that thing that they're going to get. So what is the outcome your reader will get as a result of reading your book? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to get? How do you want them to expand or transform or be? What is the story that you're sharing? Is it one story? Is it many stories? You know, a lot of people write books because they've been through some pretty awful times. And what they found is through that amazing transformation that they have got an inspirational message. And that inspirational message becomes the basis of their business. My role, my mission in life is to help people find their stories and their inspirational message and help them to share that in such a way that it emotionally connects to their readers. But not only that, it helps them to build a brand and a business, because a book can be turned into many things: retreats, workshops, coaching, online courses. You can use it for your speaking. But the key to most good books is there's a really, really good story behind it. So when you think about your core message, think about the stories that you're telling. How do they enhance? How are they woven into the fabric of your core message? Now, even before you start writing, you need to be thinking about your marketing plan, and you need to be getting out there and letting people know that you are writing a book. Drip feed your book ideas, maybe blog some of them, have some memes, talk about what you're doing in some of your groups, start to build some kind of community around what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. And I find one of the best ways of doing this is to model what other people do, is to look at what they do. Don't copy it exactly, but look at what other people do and take the best bits. Do some creative swiping. So check out what works for others and see how that fits with your heart, because it has to be authentic for you. Now we're getting into the meaty bit. You really do need an outline. Often when people come and talk to me and they ask me to help them with the book, they're either at the very, very beginning stage where they actually, haven't really done very much, or they're in a complete utter mess. And when I ask them for their outline, 10 times out of 10, there's not even a 9 times out of 10, they haven't got an outline. They've got no roadmap. They don't know where they're going. The outline is so, so important, and it forms an integral part of your plan. So the key to your book's success is a plan, is your outline. And what it's going to do, it's going to give you clarity of your processes. See, when I'm writing a book, I do my outline and I get it all written, and then what I have to do is I always turn my books into online courses. Then what I do is I actually go and outline an online course, because what that does is it lets me see my book in a different way, using a different side, a different part of my brain. So as I'm writing it, I get the clarity of process, but actually then just creating it in a linear fashion, i.e. for an online course, I get even more clarity of that process. But I also get clarity of purpose. This comes back to my why. So I always work out what my why is, but when I'm writing and I'm doing this outlining, it really, really helps me to solidify, to cement my purpose. Outlining gives you flow, so you know how one thing flows into another, how it flows into your core message, and how your stories flow around all of those things. And everything is chunked down, and when you've only got a baby bit to do, a little tiny chunk, it makes it so much easier for you to write. The other thing to do is to design what I call a chapter framework. And as humans, we see things in patterns. And although you won't be sharing your chapter framework design with anybody, you will, because you have it written in a certain format, it makes it easier for people to read and to understand. But also you need to think about how you open a chapter sharing a big picture, and then how you drill into detail. Remember, you'll have readers who are big picture or detail people. You will also want to think about making sure that your chapter framework covers off what the chapter is about, why it's important for your reader to know, how can they do these things themselves, and for them to look at what the benefits are of doing these things, and having some thinking points. That all goes into the design of your chapter framework. Now, before you finalise your chapter framework, you really need to do a test write. Now, test writing lets you know how long it takes you to actually write, and it gives you confidence. You get to see how you write. Now, remember that when you first start writing, you shouldn't critique it. You're not editing it. You're not bringing the magic in at this stage. You're just doing a test write. If you test write 2 chapters, then you will be able to finalise your chapter framework. And then that will make it easier for you going forward. When you've got your outline and your chapter framework, basically all you have to do is write until you get to the end of that first draft. And you really need to turn off your inner critic, because first drafts are just an outpouring, and it doesn't matter whether you do it by pen and then write it up, or you write on computer, or you do it using Dragon Naturally Speaking. Your first draft is a foundation. It's a foundational document for you to then build on and bring magic to. So all you have to do, she says all you have to do, remember, get up early, focus at will on, write for an hour, go into something else. You know, within 30 days, you'll have written 30,000 words, just like that. Reflection time is absolutely vital to writing a book. You need to give your brain a rest. Now, when I'm writing, I'm channeling my muse. I need to give my muse a rest. And you'll find that it's in the spaces that you will gain more clarity and wisdom. Now, what I do is, let's say if I'm having a big writing day, I've chosen that, you know, for a particular day, all I want to do is write. I'll write for an hour, I'll walk the dogs for half an hour. And in that half an hour, in that space, in the air, the breath of Mother Nature, I get ideas. It helps me get deeply connected to my muse. So reflection is vital. You must make sure that you take time out. And certainly when you get to the end of the first draft, take time off. Now, when you get to the end of the first draft, you must, at the very least, take a week off. If you can take more than that off, that'd be great. And then you come back and guess what you need? Yeah, you need a plan. You need an editing plan. And I would invite you to enjoy the editing process, because this is where you bring magic to your writing. Now, I have an editing plan, and I do things in a fairly structured way. So I might look at my first lines. I'll look to make sure that I've got my what, my why, my how, my what if. I'll make sure that my steps actually work. I'll make sure that my stories start and finish. I'll make sure that everything flows from one bit to the next. I'll look for repeated words. I'll look for overused words, and then I'll do things like turn my work upside down and make sure that every sentence has a full stop on it. I do things like I will put the screen reader on and I'll listen to, you know, really awful automated voice. I do things like read my book aloud. I do a lot of things in my process to make sure that I have a really, really, really good final draft before I create my proof book. So have a plan and tick those points off and enjoy it. You know, it's a lovely, lovely process. You know, going through your first draft and bringing beauty to and power to your words is like no other experience. It really is great fun. Now, when I finish what I call my final edit, I go and get myself a proof book. And I read my book as if it were a book, because obviously it is. I've turned it into a book. And you see it in a completely different way. And in that period between uploading it to somewhere like CreateSpace and getting it delivered, you're having reflection time. And then I'll edit it again. And then what I do is I will print a couple of versions, a copy for me and a copy for my proofreader. So my proofreader gets my book in Word, but they also get it as a book, so that they can read it as a book like a reader would, and it lets them see it in a different way, and they can make notes, and then they can go to the Word document and edit it. And I find that it really, really helps my proofreader to do that. Now, your proofreader is your last set of eyes. I give mine permission to critique me in whatever way they want. You know, you really do have to just put your sensitivity to one side and let people tell you what makes your book a better book. Your job as a writer. You are not an editor. You are not a proofreader. You know, I do editing for my clients, but I get to that point where I can't read their stuff anymore because it becomes so familiar to me. Give it to your proofreader, trust them, let them do what they need to do. Now I would say this, wouldn't I? Employ a book coach. Now what I do as a book coach is I make sure that we get the right idea. We make sure that it's an idea that is going to help someone be seen as an expert, and it builds their personal brand. But I do more than that. I help people write their content. We get the book planned. And when we talk about, what's this next chapter about? And then you go off and write. And sometimes I'll write for my clients. So when someone gets stuck, I become them and I write a bit. I do the developmental editing. And then when we get to the editing bit, I'll sit and read a chapter out so the client can hear it in a completely different way, and we'll edit it. I'm on Skype, they're on Skype, and it works. I am there to project manage the cover design, helping someone to find a publisher, to create a book proposal, pretty much whatever needs to be done, helping them to turn it into an online course, whatever needs to be done to get this book out there and published. That's pretty much my job. So I'm your friend. I'm there when you're feeling stuck. I'm there to inspire and motivate you. I'm your collaborator. I'm your ghostwriter. I'm your editor. And like I said, I'm your friend. Above all, I am somebody who absolutely wants to see this book get out into the world and you to be seen as the most amazing person that you are. Now you need to create a cover design that makes your book look like it's been professionally done. So you need to go off and have a look at what you like, what you don't like, what's trending. Go and have a look around the bookshops, have a feel of book covers, have a look to see what's in the window. If you're going on a trip, look at what's on the top shelf and in the airport. What about images? What kind of imagery do you want to convey? Do you want a picture of you on the book, or is there some other kind of image? Is it just going to be words, typography? What about colours, making sure that it fits with your brand? When you've had a look at all of those things, then you need to write a really, really tight cover design specification, which you give to your designer. Now your designer might be your graphic designer. It might be somebody that specifically does book covers. You might take it to somewhere like 99 Designs, or you might feel confident enough to get someone on Fiverr to do it. Whatever you do, don't do it yourself. Do not put up a really, really awful book cover design. It does not and will not help you sell your book or with your personal brand and your image. So you need to make your book look as if it were designed by an expert. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Oh, people just, titles. Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? It's so hard to think of a title. I agonise over titles. When I wrote Plan Your Non-Fiction Book in a Weekend, I didn't know what to call it. And in the end, it was, the book actually is all about planning. And you can create a plan over a series of weekends. And when the planning's out the way, you can get on and write. So it just seemed to me to create a title that says, this is what the book is all about. Now you've got other people who write books that use one word. I have a client whose book's called Motivate, and then they've got a brilliant subtitle. I have another client whose book is called Breathe Better, Sleep Better. You know exactly what you're going to get. So play with titles and subtitles, thinking about what is the outcome I want my reader to achieve when they read it. So do you have a funky title and then the subtitle says it all, or does the title say it all? And try it out on your friends, your family, your clients, your audience. This is part of your marketing. So let people know and ask them for their opinion, because people will be pretty brutal, and it's in that brutality you will get your best title. I promise. You need to write a really, really good back blurb and book description. So this is what's going to go on to your book distribution platform, and obviously on the back of your book and on your Kindle book. And it needs to it's an invitation to treat. You are inviting people to come in and find out what their book is going to give them. Find somebody you adore and admire to help you write a foreword. So this is going to go in the front of your book, and it adds extra weight to your book. Sometimes you may have to write the foreword for someone if they are a fairly busy, well-known person, but that's okay. They will appreciate the fact that you've actually gone to the trouble to do it. But yeah, find someone to write a foreword. Beta readers are fabulous, but write a beta reader specification. So you're setting your expectations of things that you want them to look for. Choose wisely, set a deadline, celebrate and give rewards. People love presents. And you know, why wouldn't you thank these people who have done an awesome job for you, who are going to scrutinise your book and give you a testimonial? So don't forget, beta readers, ask them for testimonials. Testimonials are so valuable. And don't be frightened to give your book away to people in return for a testimonial. You know, whenever I buy anything off any online platform, I always read the testimonials. I even read the rubbish ones. I like to get a balance, and you know, I'll have a look through the book after I've read the testimonials, but they're so important. So please do ask for testimonials. And then you're going to publish. But the question is how will you publish? And you need to choose the route wisely. Do you want to be traditionally published? Now, if you do, you need to go and do some research. You need to write a really good book proposal, and you need to write it in the way that the publisher asks for. Now, generally these days, publishers don't deal directly. You'll need to go through an agent. You need to read your contract carefully, because chances are you will be selling your soul, because your book no longer is your book. But that doesn't matter if that's exactly what you want. Now, having a publisher doesn't mean to say they're going to do all of the marketing for you. They will expect you to have a platform, which is why I say right at the very beginning, start your marketing early, so that you have shown them you have got a platform, you have got an audience that you can sell your book to. So they're going to want to see a really good book proposal. Now, I would write a book proposal anyway, regardless of whether you're going for a traditional publisher or not. Now, don't get put off by rejections. We have all heard the stories of people like J.K. Rowling who got rejected goodness knows how many times before someone picked her book up. Just keep doing it. I have a client who absolutely knew that she wanted a traditional publisher. And so she wrote her first draft, and then she did no more work until she found that publisher. And basically what she did is she went round and she looked at people that she knew were personally connected to her who had published a book with a traditional publisher, and she asked them for help. Do the same. Do not give up if this is your dream. Now, a hybrid publisher, imagine that your traditional publisher is someone like Hay House. A hybrid publisher will be someone like Balboa Press. And again, read the T's and C's. Now, they're going to take a lot of the stuff off your plate and do it for you. But chances are that you are not going to be able to market the book in the way that you would like. For example, I have a client who uses a hybrid publisher, but she cannot do Kindle promotions, but she gets other benefits. So scrutinize them all. Consider why you might be spending your money in this way, and choose wisely. Read the contract. Look at what you're going to get, and look at what you're going to get if you decide to change your mind on things and what that might cost you. Now, just because you're self-publishing doesn't mean to say that you don't get all the benefits that you would get maybe from a hybrid or traditional publishing team. Think about this. You know, the stigma around self-publishing is long been diminished. You know, being an indie author is actually pretty cool. You could build yourself a bestseller team. And I have a blog all about creating that bestseller team. So you would sit down as part of your plan and you would say, who do I need that will help me make my book a bestseller? So don't think that self-publishing doesn't mean bestseller status, because there are people that have proved otherwise. So choose your publishing route wisely. Keep on marketing, don't stop. Because not marketing is the death of your book. Outside of your launch, you are going to want to keep pushing, pushing, pushing. Now, if marketing is not your thing, or you can't be bothered to learn how to do your marketing, then employ someone who will, employ someone who loves it. I always think it's better to pay money to somebody else who will guarantee to get you, in the press or in a magazine, or #1 in Google, #1 on Amazon. Why stress about it? So keep it simple. Think about your launch plan, and then think about what are you going to do afterwards. Now, you can blog your book, you can do guest blogs and podcasts. Think about what social media channels, again, if you're going to do it. Always test, 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 tweak, tweak, tweak. Sounds like a song. Make sure you measure, and don't give up. Just keep doing it. Now, you might find that Facebook ads work for you. You might find that your audience is on LinkedIn, but you will find a way that works for you, and it will work for a period of time, and then you'll have to change your strategy because the algorithms change, people change. But one thing's for certain, if you don't market your book, then chances are it's not going to be found. So keep at it, don't stop. Now, the other thing that you can do to maximize your revenue and your reach is to turn your book into an online course. And this is certainly something that I do with all of my books. And if you would like to learn how to write your book, you can either buy my book, but also I have a great offer here. If you wanted to buy, plan and write your non-fiction book in a weekend, there is a link below, and there's a special offer at $97, not pounds, dollars. It's normally $197, and there is a Facebook group that you can join that will help you with any questions that you might ask. But turning your book into an online course lets you create extra revenue. Now, I have my courses on several different platforms, and on one of my platforms I have 18,000 students. So that's 18,000 people that are taking a course based around writing in some way. So some of them are doing Writing to Heal, some of them are doing memoir writing, some of them are doing this course. But there are lots of opportunities for you to get your book in front of a lot of other people by turning it into an online course. And it's not that hard, because once you've written your book, you can easily turn it into an online course. So if you would like to get the content that goes with this free training course and to get your non-fiction book planner, which is in Excel, again, there's a link to the freebies below. I hope you've enjoyed this and that you've got some value out of it. If you would like to talk to me, then please contact me through one of these methods. I offer one-to-one coaching. I offer support via my online courses, and a couple of times a year I run online programs. And these online programs last for about 4 months, and they're called 7 weeks, Write Your Book in 7 weeks. And the idea is that we go through all the planning, we write the book, and then the rest of the tweaking is done via an online group and support from me via email and stuff like that. So I hope this has inspired you. You might choose not to work with me, and that's great. My only hope, my only ask is that if this has woken something up inside of you, please write a book and get your message out there into the world. Be somebody who changes the world with their words. So lots of love. I'm Jackie Malpass, and I hope to speak to you soon.